Now that I have my paint laid out, it's time to get started on our painting. The first brush I'm going to use is called an angled shader. As you can see, it's angled by the name. This one's at 3/8 of an inch. You can use whatever brush you like. I just like the angled shaders because I can get some crisp lines with that. So first I'm going to take some white and I'm going to start painting the petals of my flower, filling in between the lines. We're going to start on this first petal, and then if you look at your reference picture you can see that it has some yellow down here in the bottom. So what I'm going to do is dip into my yellow, get a little bit on my brush. I don't like too much on there, so I'll wipe a little extra off, and I'm going to just work it in to this crease. Rinse off your brush, wipe it on a paper towel, and then this is an angled shader, so you can draw up the color. That's what these are for. Okay, there's our first petal. Then I'm going to take some more white and work on our next petal. Work here, try to cover your pencil lines. Okay, I'm going to fill that whole petal in. I'm working from this side. If you happen to be a lefty, you might want to work from this side across, but that's up to you. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing. Take a little more of that yellow and work that up. Okay, it's giving a nice little blush to those flowers. Then rinse your brush out again. Take some more white. Fill this petal in. Got a little too much paint on my brush. Okay, cover your pencil lines best as you can. Our background's going to be dark, so the exterior lines we're not worrying about right now. Okay, I'm going to wash the white off of my brush and dry your brush on a paper towel. Take a little more of that yellow and work that out. Just like that. I want a little bit more yellow on there. Okay, so we're shading the inside with the white. Okay, now we're going to go back, take some more white, fill this petal, fill out to our pencil lines. Okay, take a little more yellow. Fill that in. Rinse out our brush. Take some more white. You'll notice that I rinse a lot. You don't want the extra paint on there. And you want to keep it clean when you're working with white. Okay, fill in that petal. Take your yellow again. Add a little bit of that. Okay. Then this main petal, do that, fill it in. Your pencil lines will show through a little bit from where the pollen goes. That's good because you'll need that for later. Okay, let's paint around that best we can. If you cover it up, that's fine too. As I said, it will show through a little bit. Okay. Then once again, we're going to take our yellow, get a little bit on your brush, work that out. Okay. Now we're going to add a little bit of green. So I'm going to take my chromium green and just take a little bit on my brush. As you'll see how I grab a little bit with the corner and then just drag it out so I don't have much on there. I'm just going to work some of that in with the yellow on all of the petals. That goes at the very bottom of each crease. Just a little, adds a little extra to it, a little depth to the flower. Okay. Now that we did that part, now it's time to do the pollen. So I'm going to take what's called a liner brush. Sometimes they're called spotters if they're a little shorter. It's just a very thin round brush. I'm going to take that, dip it in my water first. You always want to start with a wet brush before you grab some paint. And I'm going to take some of this yellow and green and mix them together. Now that came out a little bright, so I'm going to grab some of this white and mix that with that too, just to thin it down a little bit. And then I'm going to paint the lines for my pollen. Oops, see, I went too light. I'm going to have to add a little more green in there, just so it shows up. If at first the color you mix doesn't work, don't be afraid. Add a little more. It happens to everybody. Okay. I'm going to paint each one of those in. Sometimes if you're having a hard time getting a straight line, you can go back with your liner brush or with your angled shader if you can't get it with your liner, and just crisp that up a little bit with a wet, clean brush. Just like that. Some people prefer to paint lines with an angled shader like this. Okay. Now that they're there, I want to add a little white highlight on that. So I'm going to take my clean wet brush, dip it in here. Sometimes you want to take a little water and thin down the white to go over the top to add our little highlight on there. That just makes it look a little more natural. Let me just carry that down. I want to make it a little darker in here. Okay. So those are our stems. I think I'm missing one actually. Let me paint one more in there. Okay. So once that's there, then I'm going to stick with this same spotter brush, and I'm going to take my sienna. That was this one, the burnt sienna. And I'm going to paint these little pollen things. They're just little ovals. Okay. Paint each one of those in. There's a bunch of them in there. So there's one behind this one that sticks up. So we're just doing a little bit of that on each one. There's one down here. And one up here. Then in the center, that center part of the flower, which I know has a fancy name, but I can't think of it right now. So I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow and a little bit of the sienna and mix those together. So you get this nice orangey color. Maybe a little more yellow in there. Okay, then once it kind of cakes on your brush, so you're going to want to rinse that out. And then pick that up and paint that little thing in there. So it's kind of a little trifoil. Okay, I'm going to go back to my little stem color because I forgot to paint the stem for that. So that's our basis for our flower.